I thought maybe a unique way to sort of start the presentation was, let's go back in time. Let's go back and sort of build out that story, a time when a very different technology story was out there and things felt very different. Now, of course, what I mean by that is pre-Copilot. So before Copilot, do you remember that life before ChatGPT was out there? Do you remember when your kids actually did their own homework and they didn't rely on ChatGPT to do it? That's certainly my son's journey. So that generative AI that has spawned out in the last 12 months has just dramatically changed the landscape for absolutely everybody. It's touching every part of our society. And actually, when you think about generative AI, we've been looking at this for a very long time. Actually, within GitHub, so our developer platform, Copilot for GitHub launched in June 2021. So we've been putting that tool alongside the developers, and we've seen the transformation it's already had in that industry. 46% of all the code, the new code that is written on GitHub, is now written by generative AI, the tool that sat next door to those developers to help them focus on the unique code they can create for their own business, as opposed to the stuff that they knew always how to do it. The typical task for a coder in GitHub used to take 2 hours, 41 minutes. That now takes 1 hour, 11 minutes. So that was our first experience with Copilot, getting it in the hands of jobs. You would have seen that on the 1st of November, we announced the general availability of Copilot in Microsoft 365, and we are absolutely certain that is going to transform the industry as we know, the productivity of your own teams, of your customers, and those tools are only available in the cloud. So everything that Nathan talked about, Copilot is going to be an accelerator. We have Copilot across our entire platform. We have a developer platform so that all of our partners and customers can build their own Copilots. So it's really, really interesting. Why am I talking about this at a security event? Well, if you think about Microsoft 365 Copilot, that is built on the trust layer of security, compliance, and data protection that Microsoft has. The Copilot inherits automatically all of the governance and policies that you've put on the tenant for your customers. Do all of your customers have fantastic governance and policies across that infrastructure? So when Copilot starts raising up the insights that those end users want to have to accelerate and focus their job on the things that they love doing, probably not. There's a massive opportunity there, and it directly links into this conversation today. So it is going to be a huge accelerating factor. If you've not looked at it before, please look at it. Then I wanted to talk about and probably build on a little bit on Nathan's story there in terms of what SMBs are buying. This is the same study that Nathan looked at as well. And of course, the global landscape is quite tough out there at the moment, right? We've got high interest rates, inflation, supply chain disruption, wars around the world. You know, that landscape is pretty scary, right? But there's optimism, right? There's 8% growth in tech spend. There's 70% of businesses are expecting to spend more on technology in the next 12 months. And early adopters of digital technology are 100% more likely to achieve more revenue growth than businesses that aren't. It's a differentiator for each and every business. You can see here, platform as a service will grow by 18% from 3.4 billion globally to 4 billion. And that's because it creates flexibility. Businesses don't need to go and invest in expensive infrastructure. They can test and try. They can experiment. So we're seeing that growth from an Azure perspective. Software as a service, again, that is a huge market. That's 22% growth from $44 billion to $54 billion. So again, that is where people are looking to modernize, connect their businesses across multiple sites, that hybrid work environment that we're all living, that's coming through in the numbers as well. So, and then within that, you can see the security spend because of those geopolitical issues that we talked about and the growing number of connected devices. That is a huge area of growth that we see. In a study we did for Microsoft, you can see that 70% of SMBs think cyber threats are a growing issue for their business. And backing up that we talked about this move from a transactional partner to a strategic partner, 90% of SMBs said that they would change their partner if that partner offered those strategic services that we talked about. So that's a good frame for us, but what is Microsoft's place in this security landscape? Because we've been on a big journey. I'll hand over to Dave at this point for that.
Thank you, John. Good morning, everyone. So Dave Morrow and I work with our security channel partners, focus on our unmanaged customers. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our security platform, give you a high-level introduction to what that is and what it looks like. But before I did that, in the spirit of sharing stats and intelligence and what we know about the security market, I wanted to talk just for a second about our digital defense report. It's pretty hot off the press, came out last month, so it's right up to date. And what it does is condense and synthesize all of what we see from a cyber landscape point of view. So 65 trillion threat signals that we receive into our network every day, the 135 million we manage around the world, and then things like the attacks we observe. So 4,000 identity attacks that we blocked on average every second last year. So a huge amount of information. The report is about 130 pages. You'll be pleased to hear that I'm not going to go through it all today with you. It is available for you to download and take a look at if you want to, and it's organized into chapters and sections so you can zoom in on the piece of information that's relevant to you or of most interest. So the three things that I was going to call out today, and I think Nathan mentioned one of these already when he talked about devices. You can see the first stat in the top box in the blue there, 80 to 90% of ransomware incidents that we saw, or human-operated ransomware incidents we saw, involved unmanaged devices. So just really highlighting the importance of making sure that the devices we allow to connect to our resources, our network, our infrastructure, are compliant. So make sure we're doing those checks on those devices, and that stat just really bears that out. Identity attacks. I mentioned a second ago, on average 4,000 a second is what we blocked last year. We saw a big spike in identity-based attacks. There were a couple of things that drove that, the main one being attacks against cloud identities. So we know there's a huge number of permissions and identities that are involved now when customers have multiple cloud environments, SaaS applications, and so on, and they're being exploited, they're being attacked. Last stat I'm going to call out before we move on to the security platform here, I think it's incredibly relevant for today. 70% of organizations that we saw that encountered human-operated ransomware last year had fewer than 500 users. So SMBs are absolutely being targeted by the bad guys. It is a huge operation at scale. SMBs are in some ways more vulnerable than other organizations. And that stat just bears that out. I think the stat you had, Nathan, was 1 in 2. And if you guys, if you don't want to believe us, then people like the NCSC also have similar stats. 1 in 2 is what the NCSC would say for SMBs. So, what are we doing? How can we help? The first thing to say about Microsoft, and just in case there is anyone in the room who's not sure, we are a security company. Right, and if you judge us by the number of customers or by revenue, we are, in fact, the biggest security company out there. We're blocking lots of threats, and we're tracking a whole bunch of groups, nation states and cyber criminals and so on. But the stat I think that's really powerful on here, I've mentioned it once already, the 65 trillion threat signals that we receive into our global intelligence network on a daily basis. It has to be the largest civilian at least, intelligence network on the planet. We take signals from all of the devices we manage, the customers we manage. We graph the entire internet on a daily basis as well. And then, of course, all the knowledge we have from maintaining and protecting 4 of the world's largest public clouds in Microsoft 365, Azure, Dynamics 365, and Xbox Gaming. So we take all of that information, and then we use our machine learning technologies, our automation, and our AI technologies to sort those. The signals that can't be sorted automatically or that are flagged for further analysis, we then have a team of about 10,000 cyber experts, researchers, analysts, and so on, that will go through those signals and if they require further investigation. So why are we mentioning this? Why is it important? Well, it's important because it powers the platform, right? This is what enables us to keep ahead of emerging threats. And our customers, if you have one product from us or many products from us, you have this intelligence as part of that product set. Final thing it's not mentioned on here is the investment, right? We're in a great place in terms of security, but we will continue to invest and develop. Currently, that's $5 billion a year is what Microsoft invests into cyber. We're about midway through a 4-year investment cycle, which our CEO committed $20 billion. So what does the platform look like? Well, it's providing end-to-end protection, and we're covering about, in these 6, what we call product families, we're covering 50 different product categories. So we could go acronym crazy at this point, right, and talk to you about all the different product sets this means, SIEM, CASB, DLP, and so on. But what I'll do is just quickly run through. When we talk about endpoints, we're talking about all endpoints, right? We're talking about mobile devices, servers, laptops, of various different flavors. When we think about apps, it's obviously SaaS applications. We've got cloud there, so that's workloads, cloud infrastructure, email security, business email compromise, anti-phishing, anti-spam, safe links, safe attachments, those kinds of things. Data, again, a huge topic. We could talk about that for a long time, from classifying and identifying data through to data protection policies, right through to achieving, maintaining, improving compliance. And then identity. I mentioned the identity attacks a second ago, and that I've left this one to the end on purpose. It's a huge topic. In our opinion, my opinion at least, identity is the new perimeter. It's critical that we secure those identities and the permissions are associated with those. So we have a range of ways we can help customers, from multi-factor authentication, joiner, leaver, mover process, and so on. But end-to-end security isn't enough. You need to have a comprehensive approach, and that's why we cover those 50 different categories throughout the platform. We leverage our global intelligence network I mentioned earlier, our machine learning and automation capabilities. We're correlating signals across that integrated platform to help customers ultimately detect and block threats earlier in that kill chain. To provide a truly unified approach, we're doing this from a multi-cloud perspective. So most customers will be running more than one cloud. That's fine. We can apply these controls across multiple clouds, and as I said, multiple operating systems as well. And that's how we're providing our customers comprehensive security across those different areas. I didn't mention that in many of those areas, we're best in class, right? So if you adopt the Microsoft platform to a greater or lesser extent, you're not downgrading your security in any one particular area. As you can see here, it wouldn't be a vendor presentation without an analyst slide, so here's ours. From a security point of view, we lead the way in 17 different analyst categories now. You can, again, these are available on our website. If you want to have a look, read about it, please do head over there and check it out. But this, why do I mention this? I think it's just a good validation of our standing in the security market on top of the things that I've mentioned earlier. That is the security overview for a second. Hopefully I haven't taken too much of your time, but I'll be back to speak to you again at the end.
Perfect. So that's Microsoft as a security business and how we've really built out those credentials from an enterprise proposition. And we're very fortunate with the huge customers that now trust us to look after their security and work with them together. But how do we bring all of that expertise into the SMB field? Because the requirements are very similar, but they're not exactly the same. And from a price point of view, we want to be able to talk to these customers and provide a service to them that matches the budgets that they have. If you don't know Microsoft 365 Business Premium, so that is part of our suite of business solutions for customers under 300 seats. This is where we combine those Office 365 apps and cloud services that you'll be familiar with our communication and collaboration hub teams, and then with the security solutions that we see bring that support and that level of control that our SMBs are looking to have across all of those cyber threats that David just talked about. And in the current climate, customers are looking to consolidate and save on the costs that they have. They're under pressure. But at the same time, the leaders of those business are asking for the IT teams to drive efficiency and improve the security posture at the same time. So that's quite a big thing for businesses to be able to do. So the way we think about Microsoft 365, and we know this won't be right for every single customer, and we know there's lots of brilliant vendors out there that provide solutions for these customers, and we've got a lot of them in the room alongside us today, and we're all focused on how we can support SMBs be safer. But from a Microsoft 365 point of view, and you think about those capabilities that I talked about across data, identification, devices, all of those services that we bring together in a single platform that potentially provides a saving for those customers versus a multi-vendor approach. And if that is appropriate for those customers, then you're going to be opening up a conversation for them where you are making it simpler for them to manage, and you are creating a platform where you can create scalable services that are highly repeatable. So that's the view from a customer point of view. And then building on that from your point of view, what do you want to do for your business, and how are you going to transform in the way that Nathan showed, the data is showing us the customers are moving. And our research shows us that these customers are willing to pay more for the services. These products are still complex, right? You still need to make sure you're managing that posture every single day. Zero-day threats are always going to come along, and you have to adapt. And these SMB customers are relying on their strategic IT partner to provide those services. And our research shows across the different managed services that you can create that they're willing to pay up to £93 for services per user per month. There will, of course, be a range, but that is the signal that we're seeing across the market. Very easy for me to say that, but can I put any proof in front of you that that's happening? So I wanted to very quickly look at WeSafe, which is one of our resellers in Sweden, and this business will look very much like a lot of you in the room. So WeSafe started in 2013 in Sweden, very small business, and they were very much focused on helping customers move from their on-premise to the cloud. They were born in the cloud business, 100% focused on Microsoft. To be very open with you, that was their objective, right? And they built a business which was around that initial migration. How can I move my customer effectively with the right consultancy and professional services to get them set up and running? And you can see there the shape of their business. It's a little bit small, isn't it? So you've got the consulting services at 55% of their revenue, then Office 365 services, then Azure, hardware, package services was only 5%. So their recurring revenue was 33% of their business, and they were not scaling in the way that they wanted to. This is when I realized I needed a screen like 15 times bigger. So on the left-hand side, you can see in 2017, that's when they realized they are not growing their profitability, the business, in the way that they want to. They've got their support services and one-time consultancy, but how can they create that highly repeatable level of service that their customers are asking for and transform the way they build their business? And that is when they decided to build a full managed stack of services on top of Business Premium, because, of course, there you're creating services that you can repeat at scale. You can see they were offering security as a service, intranet as a service, Azure Virtual Desktops, Microsoft 365 Evergreen, keeping them on the very latest versions, device as a service, and etc. You can see they moved their profitability from 7.5% to 18%, and they started to see the growth come through for the business, which is really encouraging. They moved the shape of their business, those reoccurring revenues, 33%, back in 2013 to 17, up to 72%, because those managed services became a strategic importance for those businesses, and because they were standardizing, they could scale really quickly without increasing their marginal costs, so they built on that profit profile. I've taken out the other slide that showed the overall revenue growth that they have, but they have now grown up to a business which is 200 200 employees versus when they started with, I think it was 15 employees, right? So that's a journey since 2013, but they went very, very early. They were using Microsoft 365 Lighthouse as that service that Microsoft provides to all of its CSP partners for free to manage multiple tenants for a single pane of glass and manage those services that they have. So really encouraging, great story for us. Please come over and talk to us about going on this journey as well. Is it the right time to go with Business Premium as part of this service? Well, we think there are 3 great reasons you should do this. In the last 12 months, we've expanded the user base in the UK by over 500,000 seats. That's over £100 million worth of revenue And 86% of that revenue is all delivered by partners. So we're seeing that accelerated growth way above the IT security spend, and we're really proud of how this is creating an opportunity to create that scalable managed service, which is what customers need, which is really important. Our revenue has grown 66%. So we really encourage you to consider looking at this as a way for you to evolve your business if that's what you want to do. I'm now going to hand it back to Dave to close out.
Thank you, John. So I get the fun bit, the exciting bit, what's coming next, what's new. John mentioned Copilot. Many of you in the room would have heard of Copilot. There is more than one Copilot, right? But they do a range of things, and they've all been developed with a task-specific model in mind. For Security Copilot, that model is really how do we augment and enhance human defenders' capabilities to enable them to defend at machine speed and scale. So that's what Security Copilot means for us. You know, when I speak to people about Copilot, which is a lot at the moment, and please do come and speak to us about it. That's not a complaint. We love talking about it. Come and talk to us about it. One of the comments is ChatGPT. Look, it's built on OpenAI's ChatGPT model for sure. But if we look, I can talk to Security Copilot. If we think about that, we have invested literally thousands of engineering hours. So please, it is much more than OpenAI's ChatGPT. We've taken our security expertise, that threat intelligence that I may have mentioned once, and built that into Security Copilot. It's context aware of your environment of security. It knows the security language. That was one of the first things we did, was how to train it on the language of security. So we don't have too long, so I just wanted to give you a bit of a sneak peek. There is a Security Copilot is the first thing. The second thing is, what is it going to help customers do? What's the idea behind this? Well, there's a couple of things. One is using that large language model and the fact that we have the ability to take in multiple data sources across a customer security environment means we can answer questions in natural language, so really simply, and really quickly. So an example of that is you can ask Security Copilot to scan your environment for indicators of compromise, and it will go ahead and scan your environment for indicators of compromise, and it will return results in seconds. So these are tasks that typically take analysts a lot longer than that. If you see an incident or a vulnerability, again, you can ask Copilot, are we vulnerable? Has this incident affected us? And if it has, you can move on from there to things like, how did this email get in? Who else has that attachment in their inbox? Who else has opened it? And again, these are all natural language questions that Copilot will answer very, very quickly. So just really speeding up that time to detect and respond to an incident. The other main use case that I'll share with you now before we move back to John for the calls to action is we want this to upskill analysts and cyber defenders. We know there's a huge skills shortage in the industry, so when we think of things like reverse engineering malware, that's typically something that an advanced analyst does, right? It takes a long time to get to that point. Now with Security Copilot, a junior analyst can submit a piece of malware and say, reverse engineer this. Show me a visual of the kill chain of this particular incident or attack. Convert that into PowerPoint so that I can present that to management or the rest of the team. These are some of the things that Security Copilot is going to do. I'm probably biased. I think it's one of the most exciting AI use cases, Copilot use cases we've got. I really do believe it has the power to transform the security industry. But we are early in the journey. It's still in private preview. We will extend that soon, and of course, in time, it will become available to customers. So please subscribe to our feeds, check out our website to keep up to date with further announcements on Security Copilot.
Perfect. So one click to finish off. So look, hopefully we gave you lots of food for thought today. And as I said, we've got the team over here on the right to help you. I didn't mention John. John is also here as well. So sorry, John. I've got 4 call to actions for everyone here. First of all, you're working with one of our best partners in Giacom. So make sure you use the Genius Bar and get around all of the partners that we have here today. We do have a downloadable Business Premium Managed Service guide, so it shows you end-to-end how to set up exactly what WeSafe does. We've got lots of partner readiness kits. We've got training, technical and sales on how to sell as the solution and the package services you put on top. We also offer every single customer a free cybersecurity assessment that you don't have to talk to Microsoft. You can just go directly to where we offer that on our website and get on that journey. So thank you so much for the time today. We look forward to meeting you on the stand.
Thank you, everyone.